remember the story of Icarus, the sun. But until the sun melted his wings, army is not an irresponsible dynasty. Lit up. Survey your zone. Headed to zone 6.
Put us down.
Box group, let it fly.
You see him?
Higgly Hollow.
Nominal control.
Box 5, this is Fox leader.
Fox 5 is hovering.
Help here.
Brace for impact.
Hang on!
Watch out!
Fox 5 inbound for pick. How much do you love your mama? Now look, Colonel.
Hey guys, today we're diving headfirst into the colossal, action-packed world of Skull Island, a movie that took us back to the roots of giant monster cinema with a fresh, explosive twist. This isn't just about a big ape. It's about survival, a mysterious island, and humans realizing they're not always at the top of the food chain. We'll break down all the epic fights, the jaw-dropping creature designs, and the sheer scale of this MonsterVerse installment. This is a passion project for me, and a like or a subscribe is the best way to show your support. So if you're on board, join the crew. If not, thanks for watching anyway. Our story kicks off with a jarring flashback to 1944, a time when the world was in utter chaos. Two pilots, one American named Hank Marlowe, and a Japanese adversary, Gunpei Ikari, crash land on what seems like a deserted island in the South Pacific. They're locked in a desperate, muddy hand-to-hand struggle on a secluded beach, the sounds of their grunts and the ocean waves filling the air. Just as things are about to get real ugly, a sudden, earth-shaking roar makes them both stop dead in their tracks. The very ground trembles beneath them. They look up, their faces etched with a mix of terror and disbelief, to see an absolutely enormous ape, a truly colossal creature, silhouetted against the sky. The sheer scale of it is enough to make anyone forget their petty human squabbles. This isn't just an animal. It's a force of nature, a living, breathing god-king of this forgotten world. Fast forward to 1973, right as the Vietnam War is sputtering out and everyone's feeling a bit disillusioned. We meet Bill Randa, a grizzled, slightly obsessive government official from the secretive Monarch organization. Yes, that Monarch. He's convinced there are still unknown wonders or horrors lurking in the uncharted corners of our planet. Randa and his slightly more grounded colleague, Houston Brooks, a brilliant seismologist, are trying to pitch an expedition to a rather weary Senator Willis. Brooks has discovered anomalies, strange seismic readings coming from an island perpetually shrouded in an impenetrable, swirling storm system. He's convinced this isn't just a weather phenomenon. It's a kind of natural cloaking device for something truly massive underneath. They've named it Skull Island because, well, it looks like a skull on the map, and what else would you name an island you can't see? Randa, with a twinkle in his eye that screams "I've seen things," insists that if they don't go, someone else will, or worse, whatever's there might come looking for us. The timing is perfect, or perhaps terrible, as the US military is pulling out of Vietnam, leaving them with plenty of experienced and perhaps traumatized personnel looking for their next mission or just an excuse to stay busy. It's like the universe is practically handing Randa an army to go poke the giant sleeping beast. With the senator's reluctant approval, the team-building montage begins. First up, they need a tracker, someone who can find a needle in a haystack, or perhaps a giant ape on a very big island. Enter James Conrad, a former SAS captain now working as a cynical, world-weary mercenary. He's introduced in a smoky, dimly lit bar, looking exactly like the kind of guy who's seen too much but is still willing to see more for the right price. His vibe is very "I've got bills to pay" and also a deep existential dread. He's got that brooding, quiet intensity that screams protagonist next. They recruit Mason Weaver, a tenacious anti-war photojournalist, who is less interested in finding monsters and more in exposing potential government cover-ups. She's developed film in a darkroom, surrounded by the chemical tang of her craft, her eyes sharp and observant. Weaver is immediately suspicious of Randa's vague explanations, sensing there's a much bigger story beneath the surface than just charting new territory. She's not here for the sightseeing. She's here for the truth, or at least a killer photograph of it. Finally, to provide the necessary firepower and an abundance of can-do attitude, they enlist a military escort led by Colonel Preston Packard, a hardened, no-nonsense soldier fresh from the battlefields of Vietnam. Packard and his helicopter squadron, the Sky Devils, are introduced flying their choppers with a swagger, all testosterone and military precision, ready for their next mission, whatever it might be. They're a well-oiled machine, about to get a wrench thrown into their gears the size of a skyscraper. The ragtag crew. now fully assembled, is packed into a fleet of Huey helicopters, emblazoned with a fierce, snarling tiger. The atmosphere is a bizarre mix of nervous excitement and the usual military banter. The scientists, a collection of curious and slightly bewildered academics, are clearly out of their element, while the soldiers are just happy to be flying again, perhaps a little too eager for action after the grim realities of Vietnam. Conrad and Weaver, our resident skeptics, exchange wary glances, sensing that Randa is holding back some pretty crucial details. He's got that "I know something you don't know, and you might not like it" smirk. They fly over seemingly endless stretches of tranquil, blue ocean, the rotors chopping the air with a steady rhythm, until a truly massive, ominous green storm system looms on the horizon. It's a literal wall of weather, churning with impossible energy, lightning flashing within its depths. Brooks, the seismologist, explains that this is the perpetual storm system he'd been tracking, a natural barrier guarding Skull Island. As they punch through the swirling maelstrom, the choppers are violently buffeted, the sound of the wind and rain beating against the metal almost deafening. This isn't your average turbulence. It's like the island itself is actively trying to repel them, whispering "turn back now" through the violent winds. Everyone tightens their grip, bracing for whatever terrifying wonders or dangers await them on the other side. This is where the vacation ends and the nightmare truly begins, or at least the really loud bits. Breaking through the storm, the expedition finds themselves over a lush, verdant, prehistoric-looking jungle. It's a breathtaking sight, almost too beautiful to be real, with strange, ancient flora and mist-shrouded peaks. The air crackles with an unknown energy. They immediately begin their mission, dropping seismic charges into the earth, ostensibly for scientific mapping, but really, Randa's just poking the bear. Or rather, the Kong. The deafening explosions echo through the silent, ancient landscape. Suddenly, a colossal, furry hand erupts from the jungle canopy, and then the full, terrifying form of Kong rises to meet them. He is immense, majestic, and utterly furious. The sound of his roar alone could shatter glass, and the sheer force of it rattles the choppers like toys. He begins a devastating aerial assault, swatting helicopters out of the sky with terrifying ease. The metallic shriek of tearing metal, the concussive boom of exploding fuel, and the screams of the soldiers fill the air. It's a whirlwind of destruction. Choppers spiral downwards, engulfed in flames, crashing into the dense jungle below. The coordinated military formation is shattered in seconds. Packard, witnessing his men being annihilated, becomes consumed by a burning rage. This isn't just an animal. This is a weapon, a force that has just declared war on his entire squadron. It's a brutal, chaotic, and incredibly one-sided battle, showcasing the utter futility of man's weapons against nature's raw power. Goodbye modern technology, hello primal fear. This definitely wasn't in the brochure. After the utterly devastating aerial assault, the island is littered with the smoldering wreckage of helicopters and the bodies of fallen soldiers. The few survivors, shell-shocked and disoriented, crawl from the twisted metal. The air is thick with the acrid smell of burning fuel and gunpowder, mixed with the damp, earthy scent of the jungle. Everyone is scattered, separated by dense vegetation and sheer terror. We see the main groups forming. Packard, now seething with a cold, vengeful fury, gathers his remaining men, his face set in a grim mask of determination. He sees Kong not as a creature of nature, but as a monstrous enemy responsible for the deaths of his comrades. He wants blood. Meanwhile, Conrad, Weaver, Brooks, and Randa find themselves in a smaller, more vulnerable group, trying to make sense of the absolute chaos. They're quickly realizing that this island is far more dangerous than anyone could have possibly imagined, and Kong might just be the least of their worries. The sounds of the jungle, once exotic, now feel deeply menacing, every rustle a potential threat. They're surrounded by ancient, towering trees and strange, bioluminescent plants, but the beauty is completely overshadowed by the palpable sense of dread. The silence after the explosions is almost worse than the noise, leaving only the buzzing of insects and the distant, unsettling calls of unknown creatures. The expedition has gone from scientific venture to desperate survival mission in a blink, and everyone is suddenly very aware of how small they are. Conrad's group, including Weaver, Brooks, and Randa, presses deeper into the island, trying to find a way to rendezvous with Packard's group and, more importantly, a way off this rock. The jungle here is a vibrant, alien world filled with strange, beautiful, and utterly deadly flora and fauna. They encounter gigantic, stick insect-like creatures that blend seamlessly with the trees, and the air itself feels ancient. The sounds are a cacophony of exotic bird calls and rustling leaves, keeping everyone on edge. Just when they think things can't get any weirder, they stumble upon a clearing where a series of bizarre scarecrows fashioned from old aircraft parts stand sentinel. From a hidden dugout, a scruffy, wild-eyed old man emerges, brandishing a makeshift spear. This is Hank Marlowe, the American pilot from the prologue, still alive and kicking after nearly 30 years. His initial greeting is a mixture of surprise and utter bewilderment at seeing fresh faces. He's a living relic, a walking history book of Skull Island, full of anecdotes and wisdom that are equal parts insane and entirely true. He immediately explains that his Japanese adversary, Gunpei, became his friend and they learned to survive together, even building a rickety boat they affectionately call the Annie B. The sheer unlikelihood of his survival story, full of ingenuity and sheer stubbornness, is astounding, and his presence offers a glimmer of hope, albeit a very strange, very old one in their desperate situation. He's the island's unofficial concierge, ready to fill them in on all the delightful local attractions, mainly things that want to eat you. Marlowe, bless his eccentric heart, quickly becomes the group's walking, talking encyclopedia of Skull Island. With a frantic energy, he explains the island's unique and terrifying ecology, sketching rudimentary maps in the dirt and using hand gestures to emphasize his points. He tells them about the Iwi, the silent native inhabitants of the island, who live in harmony, or at least a tense truce, with the island's dominant species. More importantly, he introduces them to the true horror of Skull Island, the Skullcrawlers. He describes them as subterranean, bipedal lizard-like creatures with gaping, tooth-filled mouths and no eyes, just a skeletal face. The visual he paints is truly unsettling, making the sound of them moving through the earth a truly terrifying prospect. He explains that these monstrous predators are the reason Kong exists in the first place. Kong isn't just a giant ape. He's the guardian, the top predator, keeping the Skullcrawlers from rising to the surface and wiping out everything. He's the necessary evil, the angry bouncer maintaining a semblance of order. The seismic charges they dropped? Those weren't just poking the bear. They woke up a whole nest of angry, hungry Skullcrawlers. The realization dawns on Randa that his discovery has inadvertently unleashed hell. Marlowe also reveals that Kong's parents were killed by the largest of the Skullcrawlers, a truly monstrous alpha. So Kong isn't just protecting the island, he's also carrying a deeply personal vendetta. It's a classic tale of a misunderstood monster, but with a lot more screaming and less Beauty and the Beast nonsense. They're now in a three-way battle for survival: humans, Kong, and the things Kong is fighting, while Conrad's group is getting their monster ecology lesson. Packard's remaining soldiers are pushing through the dense, eerily beautiful bamboo forest, trying to locate their scattered comrades. The tension is thick, every snap of a twig sounding like a gunshot. Suddenly, one of their men, Reg Slivko, is snatched by a creature so bizarre it could only exist on Skull Island, a towering, long-legged spider-like monstrosity known as a spore squid. It emerges from the bamboo, blending perfectly with the foliage, its spindly legs creaking with an unnerving, organic sound. The shock and horror of seeing one of their own so swiftly and brutally taken sends a chilling wave through the squad. The fight is brief, brutal, and utterly terrifying, showcasing just how outmatched they are against this island's denizens. Later, Conrad's group navigates through a haunting, atmospheric ship graveyard, a testament to previous, failed attempts to conquer this island. It's a surreal landscape of rusted hulls and skeletal remains, shrouded in a perpetual, thick mist. Randa, still pursuing his misguided quest for definitive proof, strays from the group, his curiosity outweighing his common sense. In a flash of terrifying speed, a skullcrawler erupts from the earth, its bony head and massive jaws snapping shut on Randa. The sound is a sickening crunch, a testament to the creature's immense power. Randa is gone in an instant, snatched into the subterranean tunnels, his desperate cries cut short. The raw, swift brutality of his death sends a stark message. This island takes no prisoners, and it doesn't care about your scientific endeavors. The air hangs heavy with the realization that even the orchestrator of this whole expedition isn't safe. It's a sobering moment, a harsh lesson delivered with sharp teeth. Conrad's group, now reeling from Randa's shocking death, finds themselves in a truly unsettling location, a vast boneyard, littered with the colossal, bleached skeletons of countless gargantuan creatures. It's an eerie, almost sacred space, a silent testament to the island's brutal food chain. The bones creak underfoot, and the wind whistles through empty eye sockets, creating a mournful, haunting sound. This is where the ancient giants of Skull Island met their end. As they cautiously pick their way through this morbid landscape, they're suddenly ambushed by a medium-sized, but still terrifyingly agile, Skullcrawler. It erupts from beneath the cracked earth with a guttural shriek, its skeletal face and whip-like tail a nightmare made real. The chase is frantic and visceral, the humans scrambling for cover amidst the towering bone structures. The creature's movements are a blur of reptilian speed and raw power, its claws tearing at the ground, its tail lashing out with deadly force. Conrad, Weaver, and the others are forced to work together, using the environment to their advantage, trying to find any weakness in the creature's armored hide. There's the metallic scraping of claws on bone, the panicked shouts of the humans, and the Skullcrawler's chilling roars. It's a tense, desperate struggle for survival, highlighting just how fragile human life is in this primordial world. They eventually manage to dispatch the creature, but not without further loss and a deeper understanding of the deadly threats lurking beneath their feet. Every step on this island is a gamble, and the house always wins. Meanwhile, Colonel Packard, his eyes now burning with an almost insane obsession, refuses to let go of his vendetta against Kong. He's no longer interested in extraction or survival. He's on a personal mission of revenge for his fallen soldiers. He sees Kong as nothing more than a giant animal that needs to be put down. He orchestrates an elaborate, cold-blooded trap, using the surviving military equipment and his men's ingenuity. They lay out a massive field of C4 explosives, strategically placed to ensnare and cripple the colossal ape, all while keeping a watchful eye on their perimeter. The air is thick with the smell of high explosives and the tense anticipation of the hunt. They lure Kong into their kill zone, the sound of the jungle suddenly replaced by the rhythmic whirring of their remaining equipment. When Kong finally appears, drawn by the disruption, the traps are sprung. A series of deafening explosions rock the earth, sending trees and debris flying, and Kong is caught in a web of heavy chains and explosives. The sheer force of the blasts is immense, shaking the ground violently. Kong roars in pain and fury, thrashing against his bonds, but the trap holds him fast, at least for a moment. He's injured, bleeding, and vulnerable. Packard surveys his handiwork with a grim satisfaction, convinced he's finally subdued the beast that took his men. He gives the order to finish him, but his men, including his second-in-command, Captain Cole, are beginning to show signs of hesitation, seeing the pained, intelligent eyes of the beast. It's a moment of chilling triumph for Packard, but also a dark turning point for his own humanity. He's become the monster he hunts. As Packard prepares to deliver the final blow, Conrad's group, led by Marlowe, finally arrives on the scene. They're horrified by the sight of the mighty Kong, trapped and severely wounded, his pained roars echoing through the valley. Weaver, ever the empathetic observer, sees not just a monster, but a powerful, suffering creature. She approaches Kong, defying Packard's orders and her own innate fear, reaching out to him with a sense of gentle concern. The sight of her small hand reaching towards Kong's enormous, wounded paw is a poignant moment, a bridge between two vastly different species. The raw, jagged wound on Kong's hand is visible, a testament to the severity of Packard's trap. Conrad and Marlowe try desperately to reason with Packard, explaining Kong's vital role in maintaining the island's fragile ecosystem and the imminent danger of the Skullcrawlers. Marlowe, with his decades of wisdom, vehemently warns that killing Kong would unleash a far greater evil. But Packard, blinded by his grief and thirst for revenge, refuses to listen, his orders like unyielding steel. His obsession has reached a fever pitch, making him deaf to logic or reason. The scene crackles with tension as the two factions stand on the brink of conflict, all while the wounded Kong breathes heavily, his fate hanging precariously in the balance. It's a classic standoff, but with a lot more fur and a lot more unexploded ordnance. Just as the human conflict reaches its boiling point, a truly terrifying development occurs. The very earth beneath their feet begins to rumble with an increasing, ominous intensity, the ground cracking and groaning as if the island itself is tearing apart. The sound is a deep, resonant growl, a primordial vibration that sends shivers down everyone's spines. It's the kind of sound that makes you instinctively look for cover. Marlowe's warnings ring true in the most horrific way possible. The seismic charges and Kong's pained roars have awakened something far more ancient and far more malevolent than anyone could have imagined. With a sickening, explosive burst, the ground splits open, revealing a cavernous maw. From the depths of this newly formed chasm, the colossal, skeletal head of Ramarak, the largest and most terrifying of the Skullcrawlers, erupts. Its massive, unblinking eyes and razor-sharp teeth are a vision of pure, unadulterated predator. Its scales are dark and rough, its movements deliberate and powerful. The sheer size of this creature dwarfs the previously encountered Skullcrawlers. It's an apex predator of unimaginable power, the alpha of alphas. Its presence immediately shifts the entire dynamic of the island from humans versus Kong to everyone versus ultimate destruction. The air fills with its guttural roars, a sound that promises nothing but death and despair. This isn't just a monster. It's a force of nature, an ancient evil finally unleashed. And it's got a serious bone to pick with Kong, and probably with the humans for waking it up. Oops, Ramarak, emerging from its subterranean lair, immediately sets its sights on Kong, but not before delivering a terrifying display of its power to the puny humans. Its massive, whip-like tail lashes out with the force of a battering ram, sending soldiers flying and smashing through what little cover they have. The sound of its scales scraping against the rocks, its heavy thudding footsteps, and its guttural roars create a terrifying symphony of destruction. The soldiers, despite their advanced weaponry, are largely ineffective against the creature's immense size and armored hide. Bullets ping uselessly off its tough skin, barely slowing it down. The air fills with frantic shouts, the staccato bursts of gunfire, and the screams of those caught in Ramarak's path. Panic sets in as the humans realize they're caught between a wounded Kong and an enraged alpha Skullcrawler. They're mere collateral damage in a battle of titans. Some manage to escape the initial onslaught, scrambling for any available cover, while others are less fortunate, crushed or devoured in the chaotic melee. The scene is a frantic, brutal ballet of predator and prey, showcasing the terrifying speed and power of Ramarak. It's a stark reminder that on Skull Island, even the most technologically advanced humans are just another snack, and a crunchy one at that. Their military might, so formidable against human enemies, is utterly meaningless against the raw, ancient power of this island's true rulers. As Ramarak wreaks havoc, targeting both the humans and its ancient rival, a crucial turning point occurs. Kong, still entangled in Packard's heavy chains and with explosives strapped to his body, musters every ounce of his immense strength. His pained grunts turn into a defiant, earth-shattering roar, a sound of pure primal fury. With a tremendous, bone-jarring effort, the sound of tearing metal filling the air, he snaps the thick chains that bind him, literally ripping them from the earth. The explosives, still attached, are a ticking time bomb, but his immediate priority is survival and protecting his territory. The sight of Kong, still partially constrained but now unleashed, is both awe-inspiring and terrifying. He's a wounded warrior, but his spirit is unbroken. The immediate threat of Ramarak provides a powerful, undeniable catalyst for Kong's liberation, transforming him from a captive into a desperate, enraged combatant. He knows this creature is his true enemy, the ancient rival responsible for his parents' demise. The Battle of Titans has officially begun, and the ground itself seems to tremble in anticipation of the clash. The humans, now mere spectators in this monstrous gladiatorial arena, can only watch in wide-eyed horror and a strange sense of reverence. This is what they came for, after all, just perhaps not quite like this. With Kong now free, the main event truly begins. Kong vs. Ramarak, a battle of epic, earth-shattering proportions. It's a primal scream of a fight, each creature a force of nature intent on utterly obliterating the other. Kong, with his immense strength and surprising agility, delivers powerful, bone-crunching blows, the sound of his massive fists connecting with Ramarak's armored hide echoing like thunder. Ramarak, with its razor-sharp claws, whip-like tail, and gaping, tooth-filled maw, lunges and snaps, trying to tear Kong apart. The ground trembles violently with every impact. Trees are uprooted and flung aside like twigs, and rocks shatter into dust. The air is thick with the dust of battle, the roars of the titans, and the horrified gasps of the human onlookers. It's a brutal, chaotic dance of destruction, each creature fighting for dominance and survival. Kong uses his environment, swinging on ancient vines and using fallen trees as weapons, while Ramarak's subterranean nature allows it to erupt from unexpected places, creating new craters and geysers of mud. The sheer scale of their confrontation is breathtaking, dwarfing any human conflict. This isn't just a fight. It's a fundamental struggle for the soul of Skull Island, a clash of ancient powers where only one can emerge victorious. The raw, visceral power on display is incredible, making you feel the impact of every blow, every growl, every desperate lunge. The noise alone is enough to make your ears ring amidst the cataclysmic battle between Kong and Ramarak. Colonel Packard, his mind completely broken by grief and rage, makes a final, desperate, and tragically misguided attempt to kill Kong. He corners the giant ape near a ravine, having set a series of powerful explosives on a narrow ledge intent on blowing Kong's face clean off. He's completely unhinged, screaming orders and accusations, blaming Kong for everything. Conrad and Weaver, seeing his suicidal madness, tried to stop him, but Packard is beyond reason. With a chilling, defiant glare, he stands on the edge of the cliff, detonator in hand, his face illuminated by the flashing lights of the explosives. He's ready to make the ultimate sacrifice, to take Kong with him, even if it means unleashing Ramarak completely. Just as he's about to press the button, Kong, in a swift, devastating move, slams his massive fist down on the ledge where Packard stands. The sound is a sickening crunch of rock and bone. Packard, in his final moments, lets out a guttural scream of pure rage and defiance, staring into Kong's eye before being utterly obliterated. His body is instantly crushed, becoming just another casualty in the island's brutal ecosystem. It's a harsh, grim end for a man consumed by vengeance, a stark reminder that some battles aren't worth fighting, especially against a king. The moment is brutal, quick, and leaves a heavy silence in its wake, serving as a chilling testament to the unforgiving nature of Skull Island. With Packard out of the picture, Kong turns his full, unbridled fury on Ramarak. The battle escalates to new heights of brutality. Weaver, in a moment of desperate bravery, throws a flare gun into Ramarak's open maw, creating a momentary distraction and a searing pain inside the creature. This brief window of opportunity is all Kong needs. With a surge of incredible strength, he seizes Ramarak's massive tongue, pulling it with a sickening, wet tearing sound that would make anyone wince. The creature thrashes wildly, screaming in agony. Kong, showing no mercy, rips the tongue completely out, causing Ramarak to convulse violently. Then, with a final, decisive move, Kong crushes Ramarak's head under his massive foot, literally stomping the life out of the alpha Skullcrawler. The sound of cracking bone and squelching flesh is incredibly visceral, leaving no doubt about the creature's demise. The ground stops shaking, the roars cease, and an eerie silence falls over the valley. Kong stands victorious, a bloodied but unbroken king, having defended his territory and, inadvertently, the humans who tried to kill him. He gazes at Weaver, who is now safe, a look of profound connection passing between them. The beast has shown more compassion than some of the men who came to conquer him. It's an epic, gruesome victory, ensuring Kong's reign and the temporary safety of the remaining survivors. This is not just a win. It's a statement. Kong is king, and don't you forget it. Take that, you overgrown lizard. With Ramarak finally defeated, the immediate threat subsides, and the remaining survivors, Conrad, Weaver, Brooks, and a jubilant Marlowe, can finally focus on their escape. Marlowe, true to his word, leads them to his makeshift boat, the Annie B, which he and Gunpei had painstakingly built over decades. It's a rickety, patched-up vessel, but it represents their only hope of leaving this monster-infested paradise. As they clamber aboard, the sound of the ocean waves against the hull is a comforting change from the roars and explosions they've grown accustomed to. They push off from the shore, paddling and sailing, leaving the ominous silhouette of Skull Island behind them. As they pull away, they look back, and there, standing tall and majestic against the setting sun, is Kong. He watches them leave, a silent, powerful guardian of his domain. There's a mutual, unspoken understanding in that moment. The humans respect his power, and he, perhaps, acknowledges their tenacity. It's a poignant farewell, a silent agreement that some places are best left alone, and some kings are best left to their kingdoms. The relief is palpable, a collective sigh of exhaustion and gratitude. They've escaped, but they've also been fundamentally changed by their encounter with Kong and the untamed savagery of Skull Island. They've witnessed true power, faced their own mortality, and come away with a story that no one will ever truly believe. But they know, and that's enough. They're finally heading back to civilization, or what's left of it, with tales of giants and horrors that will surely be dismissed as delirium after decades of being stranded and presumed dead. Hank Marlowe finally gets his heartwarming, if incredibly surreal, reunion. He's returned to civilization, a literal ghost from the past, still wearing his patched-up WWII uniform. The sight of him, an old man who hasn't aged a day past the 1940s in his mind, walking back into the modern world, is truly touching. He's reunited with his now elderly wife, who is absolutely stunned and overcome with emotion, and his grown son, who he'd never met. The scene is incredibly poignant, a quiet counterpoint to all the chaos and explosions. There's a beautiful shot of them sitting at a dinner table, a simple, everyday moment that means the world to Marlowe. He looks utterly content, soaking in the warmth of family he thought he'd lost forever. The clinking of silverware, the murmur of conversation, these are the sounds of a life he dreamed of for so long. It's a moment of profound joy and relief, showcasing the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring power of family. Despite all the horrors he endured on Skull Island, he found his way back, a testament to his own stubborn will to survive. It's a wonderful, emotional beat, giving a truly human closure to a character who saw more than his fair share of inhuman things. And he probably got a really good meal, which, let's be honest, was probably long overdue. No more giant bugs for dinner. Hopefully, the movie doesn't just end with a sweet family reunion. It gives us a tantalizing glimpse into the broader monsterverse. Conrad and Weaver, now official witnesses to the impossible, find themselves in a Monarch facility, being debriefed by Houston Brooks and Dr. San Lin, a fellow Monarch scientist. They're basically being told, "Welcome to the club, kids. What you saw was just the tip of the iceberg." The revelation is truly mind-blowing. They're shown ancient cave paintings and documents, not just of Kong, but of other colossal creatures, other titans. We see familiar silhouettes, the unmistakable forms of Godzilla, the majestic winged terror Rodin, the beautiful insectoid Mothra, and the terrifying three-headed dragon, King Ghidorah. The sounds of their distinct roars are played, giving us an auditory preview of the mayhem to come. It's a jaw-dropping sequence, cementing Kong's place in a much larger, more interconnected world of giants. The implication is clear. Kong isn't alone, and these other titans are out there, dormant for now, but potentially ready to awaken and shake the foundations of our world. It's the ultimate mic drop, a perfect setup for the future of the Monsterverse, leaving audiences absolutely buzzing with anticipation. The human characters, despite surviving their ordeal, are now burdened with the knowledge that humanity is not alone, and arguably, not even at the top of the food chain. It leaves you with a thoughtful, slightly terrifying sense of wonder, ready for the next epic showdown. It's like the universe just told you, oh, you thought that was big? Hold my beer, and honestly, we're all here for it. Then we're diving into the colossal world of Kong, Skull Island, where a bunch of unsuspecting humans decide it's a brilliant idea to explore a really big island with a really big ape. We kick things off in 1944, smack dab in the middle of World War II, with an intense dogfight between an American pilot, Hank Marlowe, and a Japanese pilot, Gunpei Ikari. Their planes get shot down, and they both crash land on a pristine, seemingly deserted beach. You'd think they'd call a truce, right? Nope, they immediately go for each other with knives, because old habits die hard, even when you're stranded. Just as they're about to land a decisive blow, the ground literally shakes, and a truly massive, very grumpy-looking gorilla-like creature stomps into view, ending their little spat in the most dramatic way possible. Our intrepid pilots quickly realize they've got bigger problems than each other. If you like this sneak peek, hit the like button and subscribe. It's the best way to support the channel and let me know you want more. Fast forward to 1973, because time, like giant apes, waits for no one. We meet Bill Randa, a government official from the secretive Monarch organization. He's got a PowerPoint presentation that would make your jaw drop, showing off a newly discovered, perpetually storm-shrouded landmass on satellite images. He's convinced there are uncharted species, maybe even a missing link, lurking beneath those ominous clouds. His pitch to a skeptical senator is simple: fund an expedition now, before the Russians do. Because, you know, Cold War paranoia, but with monsters. He needs a military escort, scientists, and probably a few extra pairs of pants for everyone involved. Randa wastes no time assembling his dream team of monster hunters or monster bait, depending on your perspective. First up is James Conrad, a former SAS captain and a top-tier tracker, who looks like he's permanently auditioning for a cologne commercial. He's chilling in a bar, probably contemplating the futility of human existence, when he gets approached by Mason Weaver, a determined anti-war photojournalist. She smells a rat, or rather, a cover-up, regarding this mysterious expedition and finagles her way onto the crew. Because who doesn't want to fly headfirst into the unknown with a camera in hand, right? Randa also gets Lieutenant Colonel Preston Packard, a grizzled Vietnam War veteran, and his helicopter squadron, the Sky Devils, to provide the muscle. Because when you're going to a place no human has ever set foot, you absolutely need a bunch of choppers and a guy with a 1,000-yard stare, with the crew assembled and enough scientific gadgets to make Q from James Bond jealous. The expedition heads for Skull Island. As they approach, a massive, perpetually raging storm wall, glowing an eerie red-orange, looms on the horizon. It's like the island itself is wearing a do not disturb sign, but in hurricane form. Packard, ever the stoic military man, gives the order, and the choppers plunge straight into the chaotic maelstrom. The buffeting winds and blinding lightning are so intense you can practically feel the rumble in your chest. It's a visually stunning sequence, making it abundantly clear that this isn't your average beach vacation. Once through the storm, the helicopters descend into a verdant, primeval landscape untouched by human civilization. Randa's plan, which in hindsight was perhaps not fully vetted for giant ape implications, is to drop seismic charges to map the island's subsurface. This, of course, serves as a giant, incredibly rude wake-up call for the island's primary resident. The ground literally erupts as Kong, who is not a morning person, emerges from the tree line. And he is massive. I mean, Godzilla would probably need a step stool to give this guy a high five. He lets out a deafening roar and proceeds to systematically swat the choppers out of the sky like they're particularly annoying mosquitoes. The crack of rotor blades snapping and the explosions as the Hueys hit the ground are just brutal. It's a jaw-dropping display of raw power, A reminder that on Skull Island, humans are definitely not at the top of the food chain. In the chaotic aftermath, the expedition is in tatters. Helicopters burn, wreckage is strewn across the jungle, and only a handful of survivors remain. Packard, driven by a deep sense of loss and a burning need for revenge, manages to rally his remaining soldiers. He's convinced Kong is just another enemy to be defeated. Meanwhile, Conrad, Weaver, and a few others find themselves regrouping. The silence after the cacophony of explosions is chilling, broken only by the crackle of burning debris and the distant calls of unseen creatures. It's clear they're in uncharted, dangerous territory, and their immediate goal shifts from exploration to mere survival. The group is fragmented, forced to navigate this deadly landscape in smaller, more vulnerable units. Conrad's group, trying to get their bearings, stumbles upon a clearing filled with the wreckage of planes, specifically the American and Japanese planes from the opening scene. They're quickly accosted by a truly bizarre individual, an old, scraggly man with a long beard and a homemade baseball bat. This is Hank Marlowe, the American pilot from 1944, who, amazingly, has been stranded on the island for nearly 30 years. He somehow managed to survive alongside a tribe of indigenous people, the Iwi. He gives them the lowdown on the island's true dangers, revealing that Kong isn't the real problem. Nope, the real nasties are the Skullcrawlers, subterranean reptilian creatures who are far less cuddly than a giant ape. He also drops the bomb that Kong is essentially the protector of the island, keeping the Skullcrawlers in check. Oh, and he's built a boat. Because when you're stuck on a monster island for decades, what else are you going to do? While Conrad's group is getting schooled by Marlowe, Packard and his remaining soldiers are on a different mission: revenge. Packard is utterly consumed by the loss of his men, and he's decided Kong is public enemy number one. He views the massive ape not as a protector, but as a beast that needs to be put down. He's a man on a singular, grim path, ignoring any and all warnings about the island's true dangers. He plans to track Kong and use whatever explosives they have left to eliminate him. It's a classic military mindset. Identify the threat, neutralize the threat. But on Skull Island, threat is a constantly evolving term, and sometimes the biggest threats are the ones that roar the loudest. As Conrad, Weaver, Marlowe, and their companions make their way across the island towards the north side, where Marlowe's boat is supposedly located, they enter a dense bamboo forest. This isn't your average Zen garden. The bamboo is unnaturally huge, forming a dense, claustrophobic maze. Suddenly, giant spider legs, disguised perfectly as bamboo stalks, erupt from the ground. It's a horrifying ambush by what can only be described as eight-legged nightmares. One soldier gets impaled, and the crack of his chest armor is sickening. It's a frantic, desperate fight for survival, with men scrambling to avoid the razor-sharp appendages and venomous fangs of these camouflaged arachnids. The jungle, it turns out, is a master of disguise, and every shadow seems to hide another monstrous surprise. Meanwhile, Packard's group, still relentlessly tracking Kong, encounters a bizarre, almost beautiful area filled with alien-looking flora. One curious soldier, Reg Slivko, gets a little too close to a peculiar plant that releases a cloud of highly corrosive, hallucinogenic gas. He starts coughing, then dissolving right before their eyes, a truly gruesome sight, with screams that make your teeth ache. It's a chilling reminder that Skull Island isn't just home to big monsters. Even the plant life is actively trying to kill you. Packard barely flinches, his eyes still fixed on the prize, vengeance against Kong. His tunnel vision is becoming a serious liability, as he's ignoring all the clear and present dangers around him. Focused solely on the giant ape that wrecked his squadron, Conrad and Marlowe's group reaches a truly awe-inspiring and utterly terrifying location, a massive graveyard filled with the colossal skeletal remains of creatures that defy imagination. There are bones bigger than buses, giant ribs forming eerie archways, and most chillingly, the enormous skull of a creature that looks unmistakably like Kong. Marlowe explains that this is where Kong's ancestors are buried, victims of the Skullcrawlers. He reiterates that Kong is the last of his kind, and he's been fighting a never-ending war to keep the island's nastiest residents in check. The sheer scale of the bones is a stark visual testament to the brutal, unforgiving ecosystem of Skull Island, painting a picture of a world where predators and prey are locked in a perpetual struggle for dominance, just as Marlowe is delivering his grim history lesson. The ground, because of course it does, erupts beneath them. A smaller, but still utterly terrifying, Skullcrawler bursts forth, all sharp teeth, whipping tail, and skeletal menace. It's a quick, brutal ambush. The creature is fast, powerful, and utterly relentless, snapping at the soldiers like a particularly aggressive dog, albeit one that could swallow a manhole. The crack of its tail against rock, the guttural roars, and the desperate shouts of the soldiers trying to fend it off create a symphony of terror. Even though it's not the big one, this encounter provides a horrifying glimpse into the sheer viciousness of the creatures Kong has been fighting for generations. After a frantic fight, the Skullcrawler is eventually dispatched, but not without further casualties. Packard, however, remains stubbornly fixated on Kong, even with tangible evidence of another, arguably more dangerous, threat. His rage is undeterred. He just can't let go of the idea that Kong is the root of all evil on this island, responsible for the deaths of his men. It's a classic case of misplaced blame, fueled by grief and the trauma of war. His officers, particularly Captain Cole and Lieutenant Mills, begin to question his judgment, but Packard's resolve only hardens. He's determined to make Kong pay, even if it means sacrificing more of his remaining forces. Conrad's group, now with Marlowe leading the way, continues their trek. They come across a serene, almost idyllic lake, which Marlowe has been using as a shortcut. They board his cleverly constructed boat, a patched-up relic from his downed plane, and begin paddling across the calm waters. For a brief moment, the tension eases. The gentle lapping of the water, the stunning reflections of the alien flora. It's a moment of respite that feels almost surreal on such a deadly island. They even manage a bit of bonding, sharing stories and planning their escape. But this is Skull Island, folks, and tranquility is usually just the prelude to another jump scare. Or in this case, a truly massive, very hungry, slimy surprise. Just as you think they might actually make it across the lake without incident. A truly enormous, multi-tentacled monster erupts from the water, dragging one of the soldiers, a poor guy named Glenn Mills, beneath the surface in a flash. The splash and the ensuing struggle are deafening. The creature, a gigantic mire squid, is like something out of a nightmare, all slimy tentacles and crushing power. The remaining group desperately tries to fight it off, firing their weapons into its fleshy mass. Marlowe, showing he hasn't lost his grit after 3 decades, uses a flamethrower. It's a terrifying, visceral battle on the water, proving that even seemingly peaceful areas of Skull Island harbor deadly secrets. Another reminder that this island is basically a giant danger, everything wants to eat you sign, just when it looks like the mire squid is about to turn the boat into its personal buffet. Kong arrives! He literally bursts out of the tree line, grabs the giant squid with his massive hands, and easily tears it apart, making short work of the monster. He then proceeds to eat it like it's a particularly delicious piece of sushi, right in front of the horrified, but very much relieved, survivors. It's a powerful moment, solidifying Marlowe's earlier statement that Kong is their protector, the benevolent giant who keeps the worst of the island's horrors in check. The sheer scale and raw power of Kong are once again on full display, and the sound of the squid's tentacles snapping and tearing is, well, it's not for the faint of heart. After their watery ordeal, the group finally reaches the Iui village. These are the indigenous people who have lived alongside Kong for centuries and who have been Marlowe's companions for decades. They're a silent, stoic people, communicating mostly through symbolic paintings and ancient rituals. They show Weaver and Conrad murals depicting Kong's past battles with the Skullcrawlers, explaining the deep, ancient rivalry. The Iwi respect Kong as their guardian, and their stoicism in the face of the island's dangers is frankly admirable. They are completely integrated into this perilous ecosystem, observing the delicate balance between the monsters. A balance Kong is crucial in maintaining. Meanwhile, Packard's relentless pursuit of Kong culminates in a truly aggressive move. He and his remaining men set a gigantic trap around a large lake, rigging the entire area with enough sea for to level a small city. Their plan is to lure Kong to the lake and then detonate the explosives, hoping to finish him off once and for all. The methodical, almost chilling way they plant the explosives, the metallic click of the detonators, underscores Packard's unwavering, almost fanatical determination. He's convinced this is the only way to avenge his men, and he's not letting logic or the growing body count of other monsters deter him. The trap is set and Packard waits, a grim satisfaction on his face. Sure enough, Kong, drawn by either curiosity or perhaps the vibrations, makes his way to the lake. He steps into the water and Packard gives the order. A truly monumental explosion rips through the air, sending water, debris, and earth sky high. The ground trembles and the roar of the blast is deafening. When the smoke clears, Kong is down. He's grievously wounded, bleeding, and barely conscious. Packard approaches the fallen giant with a chilling calm, ready to deliver the final blow. It's a moment of devastating victory for the Colonel, but a truly heartbreaking sight for anyone rooting for the big ape. Just as Packard is about to deliver the killing blow, Conrad, Weaver, and Marlowe, having caught up, arrive on the scene. They witness the horrifying sight of Kong, gravely injured and vulnerable, and Packard standing over him, rifle aimed. Marlowe, recognizing the immense danger this creates for the island's ecosystem, desperately tries to reason with Packard, explaining that killing Kong would unleash far worse horrors, the Skullcrawlers, upon the world. The tension is palpable, a man consumed by revenge versus those who understand the delicate balance of this monstrous world. The wind howls, carrying the weight of the impending clash of ideologies. And just as Marlowe predicted, the island decides to throw another curveball. The ground erupts once more, but this time, it's not just any Skullcrawler. It's the Alpha Skullcrawler, a creature of truly terrifying proportions, far larger and more menacing than the one they encountered earlier. It's like the previous one was merely a preview, and now the main event has arrived. The Alpha Skullcrawler's emergence is punctuated by a guttural roar that makes Kong's previous injuries seem like a scraped knee. It immediately goes for Kong, sensing weakness, and the true threat to the island is undeniably revealed. Packard's vengeful quest has directly paved the way for the island's ultimate predator to emerge. Even with the Alpha Skullcrawler looming, Packard, still blinded by his singular focus, tries to engage the new threat. He attempts to blow up the colossal beast with the detonator he still holds, a desperate, futile gesture. The Alpha Skullcrawler, however, barely registers his existence, treating him like an annoying fly. With a casual swat of its massive tail, it knocks Packard into the distance, and then, with terrifying indifference, steps on him, crushing him completely. The sound of his final, defiant yell, cut short by the wet thud, is a grim end to his vengeful mission. It's a stark, brutal demonstration of how utterly insignificant humans are in the face of Skull Island's true titans. With Packard out of the picture, Kong, still severely wounded from the explosion, rises to face his ancient enemy. This isn't just a fight, it's a centuries-old feud, the last of his kind against the ultimate predator. The clash is absolutely epic, a brutal ballet of roars, claws, and raw power. Kong, despite his injuries, throws the Skullcrawler around, slamming it against rocks and trees. The earth shakes with every impact. The air fills with dust and the thud of flesh against bone. He's not just fighting for his life. He's fighting for the balance of the island, for the iwi, and, by extension, for the human survivors who are now scrambling for cover, caught in the middle of this titanic showdown. Weaver, seeing his valiant effort, begins to tend to Kong's wounds. A small gesture of help in a monumental battle, while Kong is busy trying to turn the Alpha Skullcrawler into a very large lizard rug. The remaining human survivors, including Conrad, Weaver, Marlowe, and a few soldiers, try to make a run for it. They stumble upon a truly precarious, ancient rope bridge spanning a massive chasm. Of course, it's not going to be easy. As they frantically scramble across, the bridge starts to give way, ropes snapping with sharp, terrifying cracks, planks splintering beneath their feet. The dizzying height of the chasm below, combined with the imminent collapse, makes for a heart-stopping sequence. It's a desperate race against time and gravity, trying to escape the monster mashup happening behind them. As the Skullcrawler gains the upper hand on Kong, and the humans are still fleeing, a brave soldier named Earl Cole makes a crucial decision. He sacrifices himself by getting the Skullcrawler's attention and then, with incredible courage, shoves a gas bomb into its gaping maw just as it lunges at him. The resulting explosion from inside the creature's head is violent and disorienting, buying Kong a valuable moment and stunning the massive beast. This selfless act underscores the sheer desperation of their situation and provides a fleeting window of opportunity for Kong to turn the tide. It's a grim, heroic moment, filled with the loud sizzle and subsequent boom of the bomb after Cole's sacrifice. Kong, now seemingly re-energized and fueled by pure rage, spots a broken ship's anchor chain amidst the wreckage. Because when you're a giant ape fighting an ancient reptilian nightmare, sometimes you just need a really big weapon. He snatches the chain, which is probably thicker than a human torso, and starts swinging it around like a colossal flail. The heavy, metallic clang of the chain against the ground and the Skullcrawler's tough hide adds another layer to the already intense soundscape. It's a fantastic visual, watching Kong go full barbarian on his nemesis, using his environment to his advantage in the most epic way possible. He's not just a brawler. He's a resourceful brawler. The epic confrontation between Kong and the Alpha Skullcrawler culminates on the beach, just as the remaining survivors, including Marlowe, try to reach the boat. It's a brutal, no-holds-barred brawl for supremacy. Kong, with renewed vigor, lays into the Skullcrawler, slamming it, biting it, and using every ounce of his strength. The Skullcrawler, equally relentless, tries to get a killing bite on Kong's throat. The roars are deafening, the sand churns, and the ground cracks with every impact. It's a fight for the ages, a battle that decides the fate of Skull Island itself. The visual spectacle of these two titans locked in combat against the backdrop of the ocean is truly unforgettable. A primal struggle that echoes through time. In the chaotic melee, Mason Weaver, ever the curious photojournalist, gets a little too close and finds herself in serious peril, almost swallowed whole by the Alpha Skullcrawler. Just as it looks like she's about to become a very unfortunate snack, Kong intervenes. In a truly gruesome, yet heroic, move, he shoves his massive hand down the Skullcrawler's throat, grabs its tongue, and with a mighty pull, rips it out. The wet, tearing sound is stomach-churning, and the Skullcrawler thrashes violently before finally succumbing to its fatal wound. Kong then crushes its head, ensuring it's well and truly done. It's a powerful moment, not just of raw violence, but of Kong's protective nature towards Weaver, establishing a clear connection between them. With the Alpha Skullcrawler defeated, Kong lets out a triumphant roar, reasserting his dominance. The remaining survivors, shell-shocked but alive, finally make it to the boat. Marlowe, after nearly 30 years, is finally going home. As they sail away from the island, he gives Kong a final, heartfelt wave. Kong watches them go, a solitary figure against the stunning sunset, his purpose on the island once again secure. The feeling is a mix of relief and melancholy, knowing they're leaving behind a world both terrifying and majestic. The gentle lapping of the waves against the hull provides a calming counterpoint to the recent chaos. But the memory of Kong's thunderous roars will undoubtedly echo in their minds forever, and so, Marlowe finally returns to civilization. Still wearing his patched-up uniform from 1944, the touching scene shows him reuniting with his now elderly wife and adult son, a promise finally kept after decades of separation. It's a poignant moment that grounds the fantastical elements of the movie in a very human story of endurance and love. The embrace is silent, but incredibly powerful, filled with decades of unspoken longing. It's a reminder that even after facing giant monsters, the true heart of any story often lies in the connections we make and the promises we strive to keep, no matter how long it takes. He finally gets to teach his son how to play catch, a small, beautiful normalcy after an extraordinary ordeal. But wait, there's more. In a classic monster movie post-credit scene, Conrad and Weaver are debriefed by Monarch. They're shown classified files revealing that Kong isn't the only Titan out there. Oh no, sweet summer children, there are others. Much, much older. The files include cave paintings of Godzilla, Rodan, Mothra, and King Ghidorah. The chilling implication is clear: Skull Island was just the beginning. The world is full of ancient, powerful creatures, and humanity is barely clinging to its spot at the top of the food chain. This scene perfectly sets the stage for the wider monsterverse, leaving us with a tantalizing glimpse into a world far more monstrous than we could have ever imagined. It's an inspirational and thoughtful moment, really, as it forces us to ponder our place in a universe that's clearly not just ours anymore. We've seen these legendary beasts before in fragmented tales, but now, the full scale of their existence and the potential conflicts to come are laid out before us. It challenges our perception of dominance and reminds us that sometimes the greatest threats and the greatest wonders are simply waiting for us to stop looking down and start looking up. It's a thrilling prospect, isn't it? To think what other incredible, colossal narratives are yet to unfold in this truly expansive universe of titans, where humanity is but a witness to the raw power of nature's ancient giants. It's a journey that inspires awe and a profound sense of wonder, leaving us to contemplate the incredible forces that shape our world.